Hello. Good morning, Facebook. Oh, it zoomed in on my face again, just like last time. Sorry for the delay. Had some technical difficulties, but everything is good to go now. Plus, I just had so much trouble with determining which books to show to you guys today because I'm super excited about this live. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Gail. I am a bookseller here at News Story Community Books. We are a small independent bookstore located in downtown Marshall, Michigan, and we specialize in all things books, both new and used, and everything that celebrates literacy and books and reading and fandoms. So you'll notice that there's fun things on the wall behind me, and we've just got wide variety of reading material for all ages and all interests here in store. We can also order books, both new and used. So if there's something that you'd really like to have, or really like to get for somebody, you can contact us, or you can check out our website, and we can see about getting those ordered for you. We also do ship throughout the entire continental U.S. If you order over $40 worth of merchandise pre-tax, then you qualify for free shipping. We also do some local delivery as well. All those zip codes for the local delivery are listed on our website. I don't remember them. Lots of them with 490s in them. But you can check those out to see if you qualify for free shipping if you purchase over $35 worth of or not free shipping, free delivery. If you purchase over $35 worth of material and you are local, you could possibly qualify for free shipping. So as I said, today we are going to be talking about books that I am super excited about. Those of you that don't know, I am an educator. That's my actual job. This is just my fun weekend job that I do because I'm really passionate about youth literacy, particularly with teens, specifically high schoolers. So I teach high school, and I know that I keep a well-stocked classroom library, and I love working with kids to help them to find books that they didn't know existed, that they didn't know that they needed in their lives, but that they'd be interested in. That's my biggest passion, I guess you would say, in my life. So I'm super excited. I'm just going to shift this again. This is still not right where I want it. There we go. That's a little bit better. Okay. Just maybe I should step back. So I wanted to make sure that I was able to talk and share this passion with other educators, especially now that school is back in full swing. Some schools started this week. Some schools have been in school for a couple of weeks, as mine has been. So I've been seeing my kiddos for several weeks, and we are just getting to know our students and knowing what they like to read. And so throughout this live, I'm going to be talking about different books that you might want to consider having on your bookshelf. Available for students. If you're watching on replay, you can check out the whole list of the books, and some of them I grabbed this morning. I forgot that we had them in store, and I haven't had a chance to add them to the list, but I'll be adding them after this live to make sure that all of them are available for you and more, because I can't talk about all the books that are cool that we have in store. Otherwise, we'd be talking for literally hours, or I'd be talking for literally hours, and nobody wants to watch a live that's that long. So if you haven't already, please like this video, share this video, tag teacher friends, especially middle school and high school teachers, because I'm going to be talking just about middle school and high school books today. The lower elementary is not necessarily my specialty, and so I'll leave that for another coworker of mine who is a little bit better understanding of and better beat on what is great for elementary classrooms. But since my focus has always been on secondary education, I'm going to talk about middle school books and high school books, and I tried to get a variety. The only thing I didn't grab, I didn't have any room on the shelf for high school nonfiction. So you can find more options for that in the list that I have sent, or that I've put in, that should be in the description of this video, but it'll also be in the comments later on too. But you can always check out our entire selection at newstorybooks.com. So without further ado, let's get started. This live's going to be a little bit different today than some of my other lives. I'm not going to go into super in depth with the books because I think I want to show more than one book in each kind of category to give you some ideas for things that you might like on your bookshelf. So I grouped the books by their type. That's the best way I can describe it. And so I'll talk about the author, I'll talk about the title, and give you a little brief, here's kids that would like this kind of book. You should definitely check these out. So let's get started. I'm going to start with middle school books first, or middle reader books is what I would say. So these would be ones that I would recommend for, I would say, fourth through eighth grade approximately, fourth through seventh, fourth through eighth grade. Fourth graders would have to probably be a little bit more mature for some of these ones, so you might want to pre-screen some. And eighth graders, depending on their reading levels and their interests, they might be moving on to more books that I would hold off for high school. So you know your kids' best teachers, you know what would work well for your class, and I'm sure just like me, when you find a book, you're like, oh, I know exactly which kid I would recommend this to. So let's get started. So I wanted to start with a couple of authors that if you don't have these authors on your shelf, you should definitely look into having them on your shelf for your middle school students who really, or for your middle reader students, advancing readers is another word that we use here in the bookstore, who like realistic fiction, excuse me, is the word, not nonfiction, realistic fiction. So they could actually happen. They don't have magic in them. Um, they don't have like a ton of mystery necessarily. They're realistic fiction. And these ones that I pulled have a little bit of what I call tough stuff in them. So they deal with, so they're not lighthearted, fluffy reads. They make kids think, and it really might resonate with some of your students who might have gone through some tough things in their lives. So one author, if you don't have him on your shelf, definitely should check out having Jason Reynolds on your shelf. This is one of his more recent books, Look Both Ways, also known as A Tale Told in 10 Blocks, down here by my finger here. It's won a couple of prizes, as you can see. There's some fun bling on the cover. And so it talks about what can happen on the walk home from school, what kids might encounter as they're heading away from a place that some of them find the most safe place in their lives. So this would definitely be a book that I'd recommend for any kids, excuse me, that like realistic fiction and who are looking for something that isn't necessarily lighthearted. And it'll make them think. And I know Jason Reynolds, he also writes a lot of young adult books, so ones that are more for high schoolers, but Look Both Ways is definitely one that can be geared for middle schoolers. Another author that I think you should definitely have on your shelf if you have kids that like to read those realistic fiction that have deal with some tougher topics, some heavier topics, would be Erin Entrada Kelly. She has several different books, including Hello Universe as listed at the top. This is one of her more recent ones as well. We Dream of Space. Look at that. It's won some more things. We've got some more bling on the cover. And this is about three siblings who they're all very different. So we've got a sporty kid, and we've got a kid who's got some major problems with his temper, and then we've got a daughter, who she feels like she's the forgotten one of the family, and so the three of them are just navigating their lives, dreaming of having something else coming along in their lives. So this deals with their relationships and with the difficult things that they encounter both as a family and as individually. So I definitely encourage you to check out We Dream of Space, or check out anything by Erin Entrada Kelly. Or Entrada, maybe, I don't know. I'm saying with my Spanish R roll. Another set of books that I pulled for middle readers, I wouldn't necessarily say it's tough stuff, but they feature kids with different abilities. And that's something that I think is really important to have represented on a classroom shelf, just so that kids get to know not only others that may have different abilities than them, but also for kids who do also have these kinds of different abilities, or have people that they love with different abilities in their lives, see them represented as well. Representation is so important on a classroom shelf. And one of those that I pulled is called O.C. Daniel. O.C. Daniel, not O.C.D. Daniel, just O.C. Daniel, by Wesley King. This one, it's a little bit, I wouldn't say it's an older book, but it's been around for a longer time on our shelves. I've seen it for a couple of years, but I do think it's important to represent students who may be struggling with neurodiversity, or maybe having to deal with some of those things, either themselves or people that they love. So this is kid Daniel, and he has OCD, and so he has all of these things that he does that he's trying to that he feels compelled to do, but he's trying to keep those from interfering with his life and trying to be quote unquote normal, like other students who don't have his neurodiversity. And he's trying to hide all of those things, and he's wrestling with himself and how he's feeling about himself and how he feels about life in general. And so this tackles lots of the problems that he is going through. And so I highly encourage you to check this out, especially if you've got kids who would need exposure to someone with neurodiversity, or if you've got kids that have neurodiversity, such as OCD, in their lives or with their loved ones. Another one that I personally read, and I cannot more highly encourage this one because this kind of broke my heart, but it was beautiful and wonderful and made me think differently, is Mockingbird. Once again, this one's been around for a few years. It is by Catherine Erskine. I know she's written several other books. It's won a National Book Award, but this is about a girl who is she has a form of autism, and so she doesn't communicate as others necessarily do, and she often gets fixated upon different things. And I love it's written from her perspective, so you get a glimpse inside of how she gets stuck on certain things and how she's processing. She and her family have been through a very difficult situation, and they're trying to still recover from something pretty traumatic that occurred within her life. And so this is about her and about her brother and about her dad as they are dealing with the fallout, or not the fallout necessarily, but with the situations that arise after the passing of a very important person in their family. So highly encourage you to check out Mockingbird, just for more neurodiversity and just to get kids exposed to the idea that other people might think differently than them. This one, I've not read these ones personally, but I recommend them all the time, and I've had teachers who have, oops, hold on. It almost ended my video, and that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to scroll. Okay. We have students, we have teachers, we have parents, grandparents who come in all of the time, and they tell us, we've had kids, they've read through all the Percy Jackson series, they love them, now what? And so I'm going to give you some recommendations on books for fantasy and sci-fi enthusiasts, especially in the in the middle readers age range. There we go, there's all the words I want. And one of those that I want to recommend is Story Thieves by James Reilly. This is also a really good series if you have students who have liked the Keeper of the Lost Cities series and have read through that by Messenger. Those are super thick books, and this is not nearly as thick, but I highly encourage you to check this one out. Or there's the one that's a Pegasus series that kids are reading all the time, and I can't remember what that one's called off the top of my head. We didn't have any on the shelf, otherwise I'd be showing that one too. But this is about two kids, Owen and Bethany, and one of them is a fictional character, and one of them is, or partially fictional, and one of them is not. And so they're bouncing in and out of stories into books and into the quote unquote the real world. And so they're kind of deals with the what's real and what's not real, and their adventures as they go through that. So if you've got kids that really like the fantasy genre and have whipped through all of Riordan's books, or whipped through all of the Keeper of the Lost Cities books, or Blackthorn Key by Sands, or False Prince, Nielsen, I think, is that who wrote that one. Definitely would recommend James Reilly's Story Thieves, or the Wishing Spell Land of Stories series. This would be another one I'd recommend for anybody who has read all of those. Check out this series. And then another one that's really, I wouldn't say necessarily easy to recommend, but I'm excited to recommend, is kind of linked to to Rick Riordan, who wrote the Percy Jackson series. So recently, after he finished the Percy Jackson and Magnus Chase and the Kane Chronicles, etc., and Trials of Apollo series, he has started promoting other authors as they share folklore from their cultures, or from their backgrounds. And one of those that he has promoted recently in a series, not necessarily a series, but a promotion called Rick Riordan Presents at the top, is by Roshani Chokshi. I don't think I said that right, but I tried really hard. And this is the first book in this series, Arusha and the End of Time. And so this is with Indian folklore, not Native American folklore. Indian is from India folklore, and so it deals with some of the not necessarily mythology, but the stories from lots of Indian cultures, and it's got our protagonist Arusha, and she starts a new series where she is is dealing with some of those creatures and those beings and entities from the mythology of her culture. So if you want to get kids, especially interested in different cultures and learning more about the belief systems and the cultural not tendencies, but the cultural diversity throughout our world, especially with stories and mythology, etc. I definitely recommend anything by Rick Riordan Presents, including Arusha and The End of Time by Roshani Chokshi. Another book that I also recommend, it's not part of the Rick Riordan Presents, but I put it in the same part of, I wouldn't say category, but I put it in the same genre, is Cameron Battle and the Hidden Kingdoms by Jamar J. Perry. So this is about a boy who he discovers some creatures that are coming out of a book that he finds, and it's all related. This one's with African mythology and African folklore is represented in here. So going to different continents and the way that they share their stories and share their culture. I definitely recommend Cameron Battle as well for anybody who's read the Rick Riordan and is looking for a new series and a new protagonist. So for those who like spooky books, I pulled a few. One of those that I pulled that kids often ask for would be Five Nights at Freddy'S. Who I can say that's a lot of alliteration going on there. Five Nights at Freddy'S. This is not the first book in the series, but this is what I call a spooky book. So kids that like to have scary things or mystery occurring within their books. I put in the same category as like R.L. Stine with the Goosebumps books, if anyone loves those classic Goosebumps. Five Nights at Freddy's is one of the books that I recommend for any of those. Another book that is similar in scope and starts a new series, so if you're looking to try to find more series for your kids to read who like Five Nights at Freddy's and like the spooky books, I definitely check out anything by Daniel Kraus. He has the Teddy Saga that's fairly recent, and so this is the first book. They threw us away. Excuse me, and so it's about a teddy bear buddy, and he wakes up in a garbage dump because he's been disposed of, post his child feeling like they needed him. And so he and some other discarded teddy bears all try to get their way out of that dump, and they deal with all the scary things that occur while they're there. This also does have pictures, which is kind of fun. Oops, I don't know if you can see them. Yeah, there's some pictures along with, so if you've got kids that like that, or like to have some kind of visual assistance while they're reading, definitely encourage you to check out Daniel Kraus's Teddy's Saga. So some other books that I recommend, I'm going to move into some graphic novels now for middle readers. We have lots of kids that come in and they like the Babysitters series, which is the revamping of Anne Martin's classic Babysitter series, but they're in graphic novel form now. And so I'm going to recommend a few that are in the same vein as those. So if you've got kids that have read through all the Babysitters graphic novels and they need something new and they like kind of the realistic fiction but in the cartoon type sense, I definitely recommend this book, Allergic, by, I can't read the text backwards, Megan Wagner Lloyd and Michelle Nutter. So this is one that's about a girl, she really, really wants a dog, but she has allergies, as you can tell by some of the illustrations. And so anytime that she gets close to a dog, she just kind of breaks out. So she's dealing with that desire of how can she still get what she wants while dealing with the medical condition that she has. So I highly encourage you to check out Allergic if you've got kids that have like the Babysitter series. And the same thing with like the Smile and the Guts and the Drama series. That's the same author as the Babysitter ones. And this is another series that you can start off with kiddos if they've read through all the Babysitter ones by Terry Libenson. This is the first book, I believe. It's called Invisible Emmy. And it's a story about a girl who she is super quiet and super shy. And then she suddenly runs into another girl, Katie, who is the exact opposite, who is outgoing and who is personable and into very different things, but their lives intersect and how they interact with each other. It's a really sweet story. There's several other books, and they've all got female protagonists, and they're all promoting positivity about bodies, about personalities, about interests. They're a really, really great series. It's Emmy and Friends is what the series is called. Highly encourage you to check this series out. I'm going to geek about a couple more. This one I've read fairly recently, and I just absolutely loved it. Can't talk more highly about this one. So this is a book called Anti-Hero, and it is by, I can't read this backwards either. It is by Kate Carius Quinn and Demetria Lunetta. And so this is about two different girls. You've got Piper up at the top, and you've got Sloane down at the bottom here. And they are actually a superhero and supervillain, respectively. And they interact with each other, but they don't necessarily know who each other are in real life. They just know each other as superhero and supervillain. But then one day they accidentally get swapped. Their bodies get swapped. So the mind of the hero is now in the villain's body, and the villain's in the hero's. And it's really interesting because then they get to see what goes on in each other's lives rather than just seeing them for their mask. And that's really great because we've got some diverse characters represented here. They don't always, like, their lives are not perfect. And that's something that I really appreciate about this book. Highly encourage you to check out Anti-Hero if you've got kids who like the superhero themes or who just need to read something where you can see that life's not always perfect, but you can still become friends with other people and you can overcome. I've also got The Cardboard Kingdom by Chad Sell. He's done a lot of really great middle grade. He's done a lot of really great middle grade graphic novels. This is the first book in his Cardboard Kingdom series. I loved reading this one because it was a bunch of little vignettes, little short stories within it, bright, colorful pictures, a great cast of characters, so many different characters with so many different backgrounds. Some of the stories were funny, laugh out loud. Some of them were made your heart hurt a little bit because of what these kids are dealing with, and also made you smile because how they helped and supported one another. And so there's these kids, and it's just a neighborhood full of kiddos, and they build a cardboard kingdom out of cardboard boxes they find around their homes, and then they fight invisible, and they each have their own persona, and they fight invisible creatures, and they battle against also things that represent what's going on in their own lives. The things that they're struggling with, the things that they're dealing with. And it's just a really sweet, really, really beautiful book. And I highly encourage you to check this out if you've got kids that have such an imagination and still like realistic fiction, but also are okay with having a little bit of fantasy and imagination within it. Really highly encourage you to check this book out. And the last book I'm going to show for this kind of graphic novel, which is more fantasy based as well. I can't more highly encourage this book either, is Amulet. It is by, I can't read this author's name backwards, Keizu Kibuishi. This is the first book in the series, and I would recommend this for kids that like adventure, especially if they like the Bone series. This is another one that I would recommend. So the Stonekeeper is the first book, and it's about a girl and her little brother, and they live with their mom after a tragedy, and suddenly their mom is kidnapped by some mystical beasts, and they've got to go try to find her and save her. And they encounter this talking stuffed rat who is alive and moves around and is very sarcastic, might I add. And so they are just trying to go through this world that's been hidden from them and try to figure out what happened to their mom and try to save her before it is too late. And they meet some pretty eccentric characters and find a little bit more out about themselves, who they are as people and where they come from and their abilities. So highly encourage you to check out this series if you've got kids that like action and adventure and a little bit of fantasy in your classroom. All right, the last middle grade books I'm going to talk about are also graphic novels. We've had a lot of kids that have been coming in recently, and they have been talking about and geeking out over the I Survived series. So that's all, they're very short, very brief books, and they recount a real historical event, usually some kind of tragedy or some kind of disastrous event, and they have a fictional character who has to deal with all of that in real time in the story. So there are the regular books, but a lot of people didn't realize and don't know, and I'm super excited to show you guys, is they also come in graphic novels now, guys. This is exciting, super exciting. So if you've got kids that are interested in history and historical fiction, but don't necessarily like reading all the words on the page, definitely encourage you to have them check out the I Survived graphic novels. This one is The Attacks on September 11th, which I pulled because of tomorrow being September 11th. But this would be one that I definitely encourage you to have kiddos read if they like historical fiction, especially if they like graphic novels. If kids have read through all of the I Survived series and they want more graphic novels, I'm going to show you guys a couple of other book series that you can recommend to them too. One of those we've got, we call them their history, oops, sorry, wrong side. They're history comics. We've got several different ones in stock. This was the first one that I pulled, and they just detail either different people, or they can detail events, or they detail a place. And some of them, I think there's a couple of them that detail animals too, and they talk about the historical impact of those, especially within the U.S. So they're by Chris Schweizer, yes. And so this is the Roanoke colony, which is about the mystery of the disappearing Roanoke colony. What happened to them? And so this goes into the background of Roanoke and also what might have possibly occurred with them. So highly encourage you, if you've got kids that like historical fiction or just like learning about history stuff, have them check out history comics books. I was going to show you guys History Smashers too, but I didn't see any on the shelves. But I definitely checked that series out too. This is one that I've read and I really enjoyed it. And so I found this, picked this up at the library and read through it, and I laughed out loud, but learned things too. It was great. So these are books in a series called Corpse Talk by Adam and Lisa Murphy. And so the premise is that there is a guy and he goes to graveyards and finds historical figures, raises them from the dead in zombie form, and talks to them about their lives. And so it's quite fun to see history be brought up in just this lighthearted, tongue-in-cheek manner, but also to learn a little bit about each of the people. This one's Groundbreaking Women. So these are all important women in a variety of historical contexts. But there's lots of different other ones. There's ones about rebels. There's one about scientists. I think there's one about queens and kings and things like that. There's several different books in the series. Highly encourage you, if you've got kids that like nonfiction and like learning about history stuff, have them check out Corpse Talk, especially if they want to have a laugh too. Okay, now I'm going to go on to my high school stuff, which I'm really excited about these because this is that I get geeked about. If I wasn't already geeking already, I'm going to be geeking now for some of these ones. And I think I'm only going to show you one from each of these. I might do another live later on. My hair is all over the place. Sorry, guys. I might do another live later on to talk more in depth, especially if people like them. But I'm just going to grab one of each of these and talk about these books for high school classroom libraries. So one of the books that I am really excited to share with you, because it just delves into a variety of or it delves into some background mythology and gets kids interested in other cultures, or has kids recognize their own culture as being valid, and has won a bunch of awards and is super great. I've got The Last Cuentista by, I'm going to read it this way, Donna Barbara Higuera, I think is how you say that last name. So this is about a girl who discovers that within her family line, there are cuentistas they're a type of storyteller, but they also have some magical abilities. And it deals with, which folklore is this? I think it is, I know it's a spin. I think it's Central American folklore, if I recall correctly. I get this confused with another one that's Argentinian folklore. I think this is Central American folklore. And so this just deals with her coming into her destiny as being a cuentista, and those that don't necessarily want cuentistas to be around anymore. Highly encourage you to check out The Last Cuentista if you've got students who like folklore, who like mythology, and who are interested in Latin American um, history and cultural studies. If you've got kids that like historical fiction and have read through a lot of those, let me fix this again. I cannot more highly recommend this author enough. This is the one when kids say, I like reading Holocaust books or I like reading about war stories. I liked Alan Gratz when I was in middle school. I definitely direct them to Ruta Septius, I think is how you say her name. She has written a ton of historical fiction books for young adults. This is her newest one. It's called I Must Betray You. This one is Yes, this one is set in Romania in the 80s with the fall of communism. Yes, with the fall of communism. And so this one has a male protagonist, which is different than a lot of her other books. A lot of her other books have central female protagonists, so I was really excited to see this one that we had on our shelves. So if you've got kids that are interested in historical fiction and who want something not Holocaust related, because sometimes that can be pretty heavy, but want some action and adventure within it, and want to learn a little bit more about a different area that's not always, I wouldn't say not always covered, but not always central to history, to traditional history teachings, I definitely encourage you to check out Ruta Septius, I Must Betray You, and check out any of her other books. She's got a variety of historical fiction books. They're fantastic. All the ones that I've read by her have been fantastic. A book that we haven't been able to keep on the shelves this entire summer has been The Summer I Turned Pretty, due to its recent rise in fame from the film that came out. I believe it was on Netflix. And so when people have read through all of those and they read through anything else by Jenny Han and they want something else, I've been recommending to them A Faux Love Story. This is a really great one to have on your shelf for those kiddos that like romancy schmancy books, as I like to call them. This is by Loan Lei. And this one I picked to showcase to you because it features, I know that it's in East Asia. It doesn't say the exact background, but the characters are Bao and Lin. Both of their families, they have competing restaurants, and so they've always been at odds, and they've always, they've been, Romeo and Juliet type thing. They're completely different backgrounds and against one another, and then they have to work together, and they start to realize that they aren't necessarily so bad. So if you're looking for books to add to your shelf that are sweet and romancy schmancy, highly encourage you to check out A Faux Love Story and have that on your shelf for your kiddos that want some romance and awe type book in their life. I also wanted to grab a couple of books that were related to, because of the upcoming fall spooky season, they're related to mysteries, thrillers, and a little bit of the scary stuff that occurs. And I know a few years ago, the story One of Us is Lying, oops, right there. One of Us is Lying just absolutely blew up. It was kind of, I think it was like a darker take on The Breakfast Club, because, 4 kids go out there, or 5 kids go in and only 4 kids come out premise. So Karen M. McManus has had a lot of success in the thriller and mystery genre. And so if you have got kids that really like thrillers and mysteries, I highly encourage you to check out Karen M. McManus. This is her most recent book, Nothing More to Tell. And it is about a girl. It's got a little bit of the whodunit mystery part of it. She left schools because there was a terrible thing that occurred at her previous school, and now more terrible things are occurring at her new school. And so she's trying to figure out, is someone actually after her and going after the people that she loves, or is there something bigger afoot? So I highly encourage you to check out Karen M. McManus if you have kids that are interested in the whodunits and don't mind a little bit of spookiness and scariness in things that they read. If you've got kids that like to read another thing that I call tough stuff book, realistic fiction, that is set in more modern times but deals with some of those taboo topics, I highly encourage you to check out. This is a recent book and has been very highly climbing charts from this year by Layla Sabrine. It's called You Truly Assumed. So it deals with three young women who are all African American, and they are all also Muslim. And there is an imaginary terrorist attack, and so then it deals with what they encounter after that, how people treat them, and how they react to the anti-Muslim sentiments that come up in their lives towards them, and how they react to that, and how they try to bring positivity back to their community. So highly encourage you to check out Layla Sabrine's You Truly Assumed if you've got kiddos that like realistic fiction and dealing with some of those tougher stuff. So kids that liked The Hate You Give, kids that liked All American Boys, kids that liked anything by Ahmed, I can't remember, Samira Ahmed, I believe, like with internment and things to that effect. Check out Layla Sabrine. This is another. Oops, sorry. This is another book that we have had a difficult time keeping on our shelves because it is blown up in popularity, especially the second book has come out recently. The Lore Olympus. This is a graphic novel. If you've got kids that are interested in the internets and they like the webtoon, or if they like the anime, which has made a big resurgence, and manga has made a big resurgence, and they've gone through all of those things and they want something new, something a little different, have them check out Lore Olympus. This is just a really sweet story. It deals with a little bit of mythology, but it also deals with some more modern, I wouldn't say necessarily modern issues, but modern um, modern topics within this story as the characters interact with one another. And there's also a little bit, of course, romancy schmancy that happens within this, as because you got Greek gods that are being represented in here, guys. Of course, there's going to be some romancy schmancy that occurs, right? But there's several different books in this series. I know there's at least two that we have in store. I'm not sure if the other ones are out yet. So it's based on the webtoon, the webcomic. Highly encourage you to check out Lore Olympus by Rachel Smythe. Um, if you have kids that liked anime and they want something a little bit different, or like graphic novels, or like something with mythology and folklore involved. The last book that I'm going to show you guys for today is one that I have personally read, and I think it's very important to have on the shelf. And it's a graphic novel that deals with history. And I think that that's important to give to kids, especially those that don't like to read, but they still need to learn, or would love to learn more things. I would highly encourage you to have this book on your shelf. So I know this has been out for a few years, but I read this and I just think it's an important book. Because I don't think that this is something that is brought up nearly as much as other things in our history. So we've got George Takei's They Called Us Enemy. Ooh, okay, yeah. They Called Us Enemy. And this is a graphic novel that details George's experiences while in a Japanese internment camp out in California post Pearl Harbor, when lots of people from Japan were put in such camps to prevent further attacks. But it just deals with what he experienced and showcases the scary things that happened to him, the ways that his family was resilient and that the people around him were resilient, the injustices that occurred, but not in a way that is unaccessible. I would say this is something that I think is really important for all kids to read, so that they get a little bit more background knowledge on what it was like to be in such a situation and to try to prevent such things from happening in the future. So I highly encourage you to pick up a copy of They Called Us Enemy if you have kids that are interested in history, that have read through all things Holocaust and would still like to learn more things history and learn a little about some not so fun things that occurred here in the U.S. to certain groups. So that's all that I'm going to show you today, guys. I would totally, as you saw, there were other books on the shelf, and I really wanted to show you more things, but I just ran out of time because I get too geeked up and too amped up about all of these things. So thanks so much for watching. Like I said previously, if you haven't already done so, like us on Facebook, like this video, tag a teacher friend, share this with a teacher, tag a school, just so we can get some more ideas out there for classroom libraries to have teachers build robust and inclusive and just a wide selection of books for their kids to read. A couple of things for you to keep on your radar about our bookstore itself. We have our grown-up book fair is going to be occurring in Battle Creek today at Territorial Brewing. I think it goes until 4. I'm pretty sure it's from noon to 4. It's also an event that will be supporting the Kingman Museum. So make sure that you stop on out there, grab something to eat and something to drink. Check out all of the fun things that we'll have at the adult book fair. I'm told that there are Tamagotchis will be there. So if you need your fix from the 90s and nostalgia, go check that out. We'll also still be at the farmers market throughout the rest of September on Wednesdays in Battle Creek. So check that out. Check us out there. We have another event coming up in later September that coincides with Skeleton Fest here in Marshall. We'll be part of the Bewitching Peddlers, and I'll talk more about that in our newsletter. So get signed up for our newsletter if you haven't already done so, and I'll talk more about that in an upcoming video once we get a little bit closer to that. This is also the last week for our buy two, get one free for all used books in store last weekend. It ends tomorrow. So make sure that you come on out today/tomorrow, grab some really great used books so that you can stock up on your fall reading for once it gets colder and you need to curl up with a good book and a cup of coffee. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Like I said, please like, share this video, tag people, and we look forward to chatting with you more next week. And thanks for thinking of us and helping us to find you, and we look forward to helping you find a new story. Bye, guys.